get your kids out of school now. And by that statement, I'm saying mainly government schools, even though there are a lot of other schools, private schools, that kind of stuff, that is still very problematic. There's very few that is not. And I'm not going to list ones, that kind of stuff. It's a judgment call on that hand if I don't have first-hand experience at those kinds of things, those different schools, that kind of stuff. But everything I've read, heard, people I know who've done this, who are continuing to do this, that's what I'm basing my assessment off of. But anyways, when was the last time that throughout your life that you were stuck in a place 5 days a week for the most part, 8 hours a day, with everyone around your age, I mean a year or two, maybe different, but same deal. So you'll sit in a class of 30, 20, 40 kids, humans that are around your age. They have the same kind of, not upbringing, but they have the same kind of life experiences that you have. Not all at all, but I mean, for the most part, if it's 12 years, you've been here 12 years. So has this other child, or they've been here 11 years, or they've been here 13 years. But all in all, it's the same. Yes, there's been different experiences and different stuff that they may have learned or been through versus you, but still, 12 years. 12 years, that's a huge number to say, hey, we're so different. Well, you're not really. So then, after that, when was the last time you were in a scenario, 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, when you're surrounded by your peers that are around the same age as you, within a year or two? It doesn't happen. I mean, it doesn't happen. It's just, that's how it is. I mean, pretty much. And that's life. That's how society works. But that's not the way the school system works. The way the school system works is we got to get them at a young age and get them starting to be programmed, get them starting to be adjudicated, get them started to understand that they have to fall in line, they have to get in line, they have to listen to orders and take orders and do that respectfully and no thinking outside the box. Everything that's taught in school is truth, and that's what you're supposed to learn. That's what you're supposed to realize. And that's what they want you to believe. And do you think different now? I don't know how old you might be watching this, but maybe you're 20, maybe you're 40, maybe you're 60. Do you think different now? Do you think, you know what, if it wasn't for those 12 years or those 14 years in K through 12 education, I would be so much further along down a bad road or down the bad avenue. I'd be so much further down this way. And I would not be as far along on a good avenue or a good road that I am now because of K through 12. Absolutely not. You think, well, you know what, I had fun, it was fun, there was kids there, social atmosphere, that kind of stuff, and just my assessment, most of the teachers sucked, and it was, my opinion, it was horrendous, it was horrible. Most of the time that I was in school, I'm no one special, but I just felt like most of those teachers didn't know their head from their hole in the ground, and if it didn't say it in the book, they didn't know it. And they didn't question what was in the book. They were teaching the textbook because that's what they're supposed to teach. That was their job. Not to think outside, really, but what's in these books here that you're given from the government to teach these kids, indoctrinate them with, this is the truth. This is reality. Whether the teacher believes it or not, that teacher needs to push it and pressure it on these students to get them to believe it's the truth. This isn't 100% across the board. I know that. But my assessment and feeling, it's got to be 97%, 95% across the board like this. Yes, there are a few outliers, a few great teachers that are not like this, and a lot lose their jobs, a lot get pushed aside, a lot get put on probation, a lot get, a recess. from work or whatever because they're not teaching the indoctrination text that they're supposed to. They're not falling in line themselves. Hence, they're not making the children fall in line. Hence, they're not doing their job as seen by the government or, the people barking down these orders to them. Teachers' unions, whatever. So anyways, take that. From that, I'm going to say now, there's many people nowadays that use, I'm saying a lame excuse to say, well, my kids are in school now, they're still in public school, they're still in government school because of sports. It's because of baseball, or it's because of gymnastics, or it's because they're in volleyball, or soccer, or football, and my kids enjoy it, and they know their teammates or the children they're playing with, that kind of stuff. So that's why I'm doing it, and my kids set its goals on state because they're going to make it to state this year. Their team's going to make it to state, or they're going to individually make it to state if it's an individual sport, whatever. So that's why I'm in school, and so that's why they're still there, because I know it's important, because they really feel it's this important, and they're really looking forward to it. All right, I hear you. Now think about this. If that's you, when was the last time that your child, especially teenager, knows everything or knows the right direction to take or the right things to do versus you an adult, you a parent, you're a person with experience, you're a person that's been through the ups and downs and the bad choices and that kind of stuff. When's the last time that you're like, oh yeah, well, I guess my 13-year-old or my 15-year-old knows better, so I'm just going to let them do what they want to do because of sports. It's all about sports. I didn't ask them, how stuff went for their hard sciences or their math or, whether even English or that kind of stuff. I didn't ask any of that because it's about sports. All right? Yeah, that might sound unrealized, but that's what happens. I have family members now that are still doing this, even after 2020, still continuing to do this and use that lame excuse that's why, because of sports, because my child is involved in this sport and they have been, and they really want to make it to state, or they want to make it to here, or want to hit this other goal with their sport, whatever. So that's why my child is suffering through this K through 12 indoctrination camp. It's babysitters blowing up, basically, but worse than a babysitter. Not saying babysitters are bad as a whole, but worse than just a babysitter. They're being indoctrinated. They're being forced to accept a change in how they might feel, or how their family feels, or their traditions, or that kind of stuff. That's happening. It's happening, and you know it's happening. And if you don't, I urge you to look into things. So anyways, now, schools, especially government public schools, nowadays are really nothing but that. Like I said, indoctrination camps, and you bring them, send them there because of babysitters. You got to work, whatever. Understand that. But you know what? There's ways around it. Is change easy? Not at all. Is change worth it? Almost always, absolutely. Does change for the betterment? Yes. And anything good is usually tough to accomplish. But once you go through the struggles and the ruts and that kind of stuff, you're happier once you get it done and get over it and get on with it. So anyways, I want to focus back onto what is no longer being taught. What is no longer being taught in schools? So let's go over, I got a little list here, I want to go over this, and then maybe this will get people thinking a little more about these government schools. Sorry about that, I had to attend to the dogs. But anyways, so what is really going on in these government schools nowadays? Now, I want to say, let's go with what has not been taught as of late. As of late, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and then what hasn't really ever been taught. I'm just going to do a little list here, and I'll continue on to the next segment. Anyway, so what's no longer being taught? Think about this. This is not all. It's not everywhere 100%, but it's the plethora. It's most. Home ec is not taught. It's not offered. Why is that important? Well, if you ever were home ec, I was, you realize, not all the kids are happy about it, get along with it, whatever, but they are essential things to learn about and essential things to keep in mind and to have the knowledge of. Whether you know it then or not, whether you take it all in and remember it all or not, it's not the point. You experienced it, and there's a little bit of that muscle memory to some things, whether it's cooking or your sewing or your household stuff, whatever. Home ec. And small engine repair. That is something I was involved in too. And that I think was great, especially for children who they don't have that kind of atmosphere, that kind of stuff going on at home, and they're not, so versed with that. They don't have that in their life. This is a great way to get them at least learning about a small engine and what it takes and that kind of stuff. How about most of the shop classes are gone. If not, there are a lot of schools where they're just gone, period. And there's some where there's still some lingering small tidbits that they can justify a shop class, and they're not like they used to be. And that teaches you a lot of stuff about tools, woodworking, cutting, all that kind of stuff. Shop and creative building. There's also there was building trades. That was something else. That was building trades. One of the focuses were building a house. We're helping, being involved in building a house, and that's happened from high school kids. That happened, and I don't see it, and I don't hear about it anymore. It seems like it doesn't exist. I'm sure it does somewhere, but it's just not the norm anymore. We got on-the-job training, OJT. This was something I believe started when the kids were starting in 11th grade. I don't think there was 10th, because it was all what age? You had to be at least 16 or 16 and a half or whatever it was. And OJT is as long as you have a job, and you have a job where you're getting, I think it was 30 hours a week or more, and you're working it weekly, so maybe it was a grocery store, or maybe it was at a flower shop or somewhere. As long as you had a job, maybe you're working at old folks' home, that kind of stuff. And you can leave as long as you get up enough credits, enough stuff for your sciences, your math, that kind of stuff, all taken care of, all accounted for. Then this was another kind of class you could choose to be in, OJT, and I say class lightly. You started, I think there was a week or two, maybe a month, that you had to go through stuff about, learn about jobs, career, that kind of stuff, even though you're working still, you're working after school. And then once you go through this assessment of it and that kind of stuff, then it's like, voila, and you're going to be working these days, these times, and then you tell your employer, hey, John, or whatever his name is, I'm going to be starting OJT in a few weeks. I'm going to be getting off school, as long as I'm working, getting off school at 1 o'clock. So then from that time, I can start here at work at 1:15, or I'll get out of school at 1:30, then I can start here at 2 o'clock. And then I'll start working. You can start working at 2 o'clock until your shift was done, whether it was 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, 8 o'clock, whatever. And you did that, not every day, maybe it was 3 days a week. You did it Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever it was. And that's what you did. That was OJT, and that ran through the semester or the trimester, or however your schools did it. And then as long as you're holding that job, you're still doing it, and that was that. You couldn't abuse it. You couldn't get off and then quit your job and just get off school early. It would come down, and then you would have lost that opportunity in that class, and you would have to have taken another class in place of it, or be forced into study hall, which you get no credits for at all. So that was another thing I don't see really offered anywhere. And I could be wrong. It could be at places still, but that was another thing that I've seen just sort of dropped off. So what was really never taught that, at least that I felt, having children in it, myself being in it, that kind of stuff. What is real money, and what is the benefit of assets, and how does real money and assets relate versus currency? All right, that's a lot right there in one, but if you think about it, currency isn't money. Currency is just an exchange thing. Money has real worth, real value, real use cases, and it retains its power, its purchasing power. How to problem solve really was not. I mean, outside of shop class, or even small engine repair, and maybe even home ec, outside of those classes, I don't believe there's any other classes that are offered of how to problem solve. And I don't mean how to solve a math problem. I mean how to problem solve. How do you're working on this engine, you're doing this thing for home ec, you got this project, whatever, you ran into these problems, these issues that were unexpected because something failed, material failed, you had some tools failed, some hardware failed, something in the engine was wrong, whatever. You got to figure out, how am I going to problem solve this? How am I going to do this? How am I going to work my way through this? There wasn't that. Yeah, it's just specifically for this item, but learning how to problem solve is such a wider scope. You can bring that to anywhere. Learn how to problem solve something, an issue at your house, and that kind of stuff. I mean, problem solve relationship issue you may have. Yeah, they don't translate 100%, but at least there's something there that maybe can be moved forward and carried on. Problem solve. Once you can problem solve, it's so much easier to solve problems. If you're not a problem solver, it's so much more difficult to solve problems. You look to someone for the answer. You look for someone to point a direction to you versus just taking it and figuring it out and saying, I got this issue here. This is my goal, is to be here. What do I have to do with this problem to get here? That's not taught either. It's not offered. I'm not saying 100%, like I said before, but as a whole, it's not. And think for yourself as an individual, and how to help others do the same. It's not taught either. Yeah, I know there's bullies and this kind of stuff, that it's never really addressed. They just say, but no bully zone, that kind of stupid crap they propagandize for, but that's not really solving the issue or really, steaming head on at the issues. But anyways, so now I want to say, what do you do? What do you do? Well, I'm just saying myself, I got my kids out and I try to tell other people that I know and trust to do the best it is for their children or their child. I'd pull your kids out. And that's myself, just my opinion. Don't take it 100% and do what I say because I said it. Look into it. Look into it and find out what is right and what is the best way to do things. But I'd pull your kids out, pull them out, and then what's your option to that? Well, you're working. Well, you can still work. Just school after work. School when you get home from work. That kind of stuff. And I say school, I say that so lightly. I don't like saying that term. School, home educate. Don't homeschool. Homeschool is the same thing, but I like using home educate. Home educate your children. And how do you do that? Books. Books, good, trusted, tried and true books is the best place to start. The best place to start. You, of course, need your math and that kind of stuff, and make sure their English, the writing skills are there, the reading skills are there. But I would say I would start with reading and having your children read. And you can sit with them and have them read to you. If you have a couple kids, have them take turns reading, or 3 kids or whatever. They take turns reading different books throughout and read every day. Every day. Sit down. You got, whether it's after work, at night, do it. If it's dark out, it doesn't matter. You can read inside. Do it. So I'm going to show you some books, and there's many more, but these are some books I've used, and I have so much more than these, but I just want to show you some to get started. And I think these are great books. And no matter what their level is. I started my kids when they were under 10 reading this kind of stuff. So that's why I feel passionate about this. And I didn't scoop down to their reading level. I just said, well, you're going to read some real stuff and some hard stuff and some stuff that makes sense and some stuff you learn from. Otherwise, reading at this juncture every day is a waste, in my opinion, just for entertainment. So anyways, here's a book, Economics in One Lesson. This is an amazing book. It's a tougher read because it's written, it's because of the age of it. It's not written real clear as nowadays writing is, but this is an amazing book. It's simple. The lessons are simple and easy that you learn from it. And you read this, it's not very thick. And I would do it, and after we read maybe part of a chapter, a whole chapter, and there's some points that he's talking about, that I would just talk about, discuss, a 10-minute discussion on what was just read, what my child just read. I got this other book. It's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. I've shown these books before, but I just, in case people didn't see these other videos, I just want to say this. Rich Dad, Poor Dad is an amazing book. It's a fun read, especially for children too. Very fun. It's easy. This is a great book. Great book to get people thinking differently about finances and that kind of stuff, and just life in general. So there's that. On that same sort of note there, I have this book, Money Destroys Nations. This is about Zimbabwe and the hyperinflation that hit Zimbabwe back in 2016, I believe. 2006, 2008. I'm 10 years further beyond that. 2006, 2008, this is about that hyperinflation, what happened there, and this is all about how they dealt with it and how they had to barter and trade and what they used when their currency went to zero, went to zipple, went to zilch. This is great. This is actually, I think, works perfectly for what's going on today in America and around the world with their currencies in hyperinflation, or going to be in hyperinflation real soon. This is great. Also, we got this book here. It's Ponzi Factor. This was a great book that me and the children read. And it goes into the stock market, but not the stock market like you would be taught. They would tell you in school or in television how to think about the stock market, that kind of stuff. This opened some eyes, and this is a really, really good read and really good book itself, and teaches that just because you own stocks doesn't mean you own part of the company. And for the most part, that kind of stuff. It's a great book. Then I got The Creature from Jekyll Island, G. Edward Griffin. This is a great read. It's a big read. This is a bear. So the kids took turns reading this every day, got through it, and it's a great read. And I think this is very, very beneficial. And now I got this other book. This is a little older, A Guide to Investing in Gold and Silver, by Mike Maloney. This it's a little dated because he's talking about, I think this was 2007 or so when he wrote this initially, and then he updated it here and there. But you can get this for free from goldsilver.com. I think you just have to pay the shipping on this. Otherwise, you can just download the full book PDF form online from his site. All you have to do is sign in for free, or sign up for free with your email. That's it, and you can download this entire thing in PDF form for free. And then you can also get this for free, basically, but you have to pay the shipping because it costs to ship this this real thing, this real item. And then last thing I want to talk about is this book here. It's called The Bitcoin Standard. Now, if you don't like cryptocurrencies, you don't like Bitcoin, that's 100% fine. That's not why I say anything about this book. If you want, I believe it's the last chapter, I believe it's chapter 8 or something, is the first time that it start being spoken about cryptocurrencies and or Bitcoin. Other than that, it starts way back when seashells were used for trade and as money, currency, seashells. And then it goes through pieces of rock, pieces of a stone, and what different countries, different societies used as their form of money or currency for exchange of goods and services. This goes all through that. And it is so, I knew a lot about currencies, but once I read this, I learned so much more that I didn't realize, I guess, is the best way to say it. So this is a great book to read, especially for kids, because then you start to think about, okay, well, what really is money? What really is valuable? What is the best thing to use for exchange for goods and services? What's the best thing to use to preserve any wealth I may have, or preserve anything that I may have as a family, whatever? What's the best way versus the currency, whether that's your US dollar or it's your Zimbabwe dollar or it's your Argentina thing, or some rubles from Russia, because all that stuff loses value. And when you're in inflation like we are in America, I think we're over 9.1% inflation according to their numbers, which translates to over 20% inflation now, which means if you're holding a dollar every day, that's losing 20% purchasing power. Every day you can buy 20% less. Every hour you can buy 20% less. Yes, some it's even worse than that. But so by the end of the week, you can buy so much less than you could the week prior, or the month prior, or the half year ago. It's just going away. So why would you hold any value you have, any worth you have in this paper that's just melting away like an ice cube on a hot summer day? That's all it's doing. And hyperinflation just means it's getting hotter and hotter and hotter, so the ice cube's going to melt faster and faster and faster. That's all it is. So anyways, I just hope you get something out of this, and I really hope you think about, is my child's sports or what my child wants really beneficial for them? Because, just my opinion, is if you're keeping your kids in government schools because of sports, whatever sport that is, and whatever, because they might get this, they might do that, they might go to state, they might be able to do this, their team might do this, whatever, then you are judging that sports are more important than your child's education and your child's overall welfare as far as the future that they have. That's my opinion. Mine only. So I know it sounds harsh, but that's my take on it. Anyways, I thank you for watching. If you like this, share, subscribe, all that stuff. And as always, stay vigilant, protect yourself, protect your family, protect your health, and protect your wealth.